Welcome back to part 2 of What If Padme Remained as Queen. Thank you to all of you who watched the first part of this video. To recap what happened in that episode in the event you haven't seen it, the absence of Padme from the Senate had resulted in Jar Jar Binks becoming the Senator of Naboo. Padme remaining on her home planet had also led to Anakin becoming emotionally conflicted, and after saving his mother on Tatooine, he took the opportunity to head to Naboo for a council mission. But the planet is not as idyllic as he had hoped, as he is forced to defend an attack on the Gungans, led by Asajj Ventress. As Anakin continued his battle with Ventress, he found himself beginning to move away from the lake and into the forestation that his master had previously traversed. Focusing upon finding a weakness in the Night Sisters' defences, she began to use the trees to swing away from the Jedi, and Anakin rushed back to the lake, where he stopped in his tracks. The terrifying and towering figure of the bounty hunter Dirge stood near the ship of Ventress, and sporadically igniting his flame-throwing wrist mounts, the Jedi looked around for a solution. Out of the water, the Gungans that Anakin had helped to save rose valiantly to surround the assassins with their vast number, and firing their energy balls at them, Ventress and Dirge are forced to retreat back into their ship. Anakin knew the separatist threat was not over, and running back to the palace, Padme had been saved by the decoy created by her handmaidens, and he asked the Jedi Council if he could remain on Naboo. Mace Windu is reluctant, wary that Anakin would grow too close to the Queen, and with most of the Council agreeing, Anakin is ordered back to the Jedi Temple. Padme assured him of her safety, surrounding her palace with the entire Gungan army, and Anakin returned to Coruscant, where to his surprise, he is made a Jedi Knight. Returning to his quarters to retrieve his possessions, Obi-Wan stood at the doorway, sensing the conflict in his Padawan. The new Jedi Master knew that Anakin wanted to return to Naboo, and realised that he had been teaching Anakin incorrectly through his rise through the Order, and wished that he could talk to Qui-Gon again. The Jedi Master walked to the quarters of Grandmaster Yoda, and there the wise Jedi suggested for Obi-Wan to meditate with him, and try to find the answers that he wanted. After several rotations of meditation, there were no answers in the Force, and they opted to place Obi-Wan in a sensory deprivation tank to try and extend his connection with the Force through unconsciousness. Teetering between life and death, Obi-Wan finally heard the voice he wanted, the unmistakable one of his old master. Qui-Gon advised his Padawan to allow Anakin to choose his own path, and leaving his state of unconsciousness, the weakened Obi-Wan stumbled back to his quarters, where Anakin was lifting the last of his model starfighters to his new room, and Obi-Wan told his Padawan that he could leave for Naboo, as well as Padme should he wished. Anakin stood in wonder at what had brought about the change to his master, and running to the Jedi Council, he handed his lightsaber to Grandmaster Yoda, and announced his departure from the Jedi Order. The Jedi Council looked at each other in utter shock, all confused at what had caused this, but they could not stop Anakin. Taking an oath known as the Barash Vow, Anakin cut his connections to the Jedi Order, as he sought to evaluate his alignment in the Force, and bowing to his master, he took all of his possessions and loaded them onto his ship. Returning to Shmi's apartment, the former Jedi Knight thought that he would be able to take her to Naboo, but Shmi had become attached to Coruscant, and with the safety of the Jedi, Anakin was forced to head to Naboo alone. The departure from Coruscant had been felt by Chancellor Palpatine, and from his office, he ordered his apprentice Dooku to eliminate Queen Amidala, without the blame being put upon the Separatists. The Count obliged, and entering his solar sailor with his pilot droid, he received the report of the failure from Ventress and Dirge, and knew not to underestimate the power of the Naboo security force. The Sith apprentice landed by the desolate plains that had previously seen the Trade Federation's failed attack on the Gungans. On this occasion, Dooku deployed a small battalion of droids into the trees, and very quickly he received a transmission from his tactical droid that the lure had worked, and the perimeter defences of the palace were considerably thinner than before. Marching through the plaza with several armoured assault tanks, Dooku casually cut through anyone who resisted him, until he is faced by Anakin Skywalker. The rash Jedi Knight that he had been expected to be faced with was instead a Force user treading between light and dark, and igniting his new blade. Dooku wanted to test the abilities of Anakin, so ordered his army to attack. The former Jedi summoned the Gungans that had not been deployed, and as they attack, he is inevitably isolated with Count Dooku. Blocking the Sith-lining attack with his blade, Anakin is surprised by the power, and falling onto his back, Dooku mocked the Jedi for failing to train Anakin, and leaving him to suffer in the hands of his Magna Guards, he stomped to the palace throne room. Queen Amidala had seen the fall of Anakin from her vantage point, and activating the last line of defences in the form of force barriers, it gave her enough time to leave in her diplomatic barge, and alert the Jedi Council of Dooku's attempted assassination on her life. But for the Council, the abduction of Anakin was of little importance, all apart from Obi-Wan. That is it for part 2 of What If Padme Remained as Queen. If you'd like to see a part 3 soon, please like this video, turn on that notification bell, click that subscribe button on this channel, as well as on my other channel What If Films. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next, and how I can improve my videos. Thank you all very much for watching, and see you next time.